Hey, I'm Hugh Jackman, and this is my last meal. I love eating.
Every person has exactly two things in common. We all gotta eat and we're all gonna die. Today's guest is a veteran of the stage and screen. He's won just about every award under the sun. You know him as Wolverine, you know him as Jean Valjean, and you'll soon know him as Robin Hood, as his newest movie, The Death of Robin Hood, comes out in theaters on June 19th. But I mostly know him as the youngest audience member by several decades at the Sydney Theater during the Saturday matinee showings. Hugh Jackman, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Josh. It's good to see you, man.
Thanks.
I'm glad I'm not actually getting ready to play Wolverine. Because almost all of this would be off the table.
I was going to ask, man, you noticeably are one of the fittest men on earth. We have a lot of calories and a lot of grams of saturated fat on this. Mm-hmm. How often are you eating any of these foods?
You know, right now, like when I'm not actively, so 6 months out from when I know I'm playing Wolverine, I'm starting to gear up. And my food is not my own decision. I'm 57. I know how hard it is to get in shape, stay in shape. So I don't go too far off piste, if I'm honest.
You and I both, we're both in our off seasons right now. So that's why I'm not incredibly shredded and jacked. You know, I'm also 6 months out.
Are you?
From something. We're all 6 months out from something.
Okay.
I can't thank you enough for being here, man. Have you thought about your last meal before?
I think I have back in the, whenever I've seen a movie where someone gets the last meal and what it is. So I think I've thought about it, but I haven't given it this much thought. And it's interesting to me how much of it went back to Australia.
Yeah.
Or my version of Australia, because I had English parents. So some of the things which I'll talk about kind of have the English sort of factor in it.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting? Do you find a lot of people go back to their childhood?
Almost everybody. And even if I'm thinking about my own last meal, my current tastes are just a record of the past versions of myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't told many people this, but my mum, for my birthday, I think it was when I was 40, maybe 45, my mum's an amazing cook. So she gave me a book, handwritten, of all of my favorite recipes.
Oh my God.
And my mum is one of those cooks that doesn't measure anything.
Yeah.
So it took her a year because she had to make everything so she could measure it and write it down. And I have a handwritten book of all of my favorite things, the recipe book. It's one of my prized possessions.
That's incredible.
That's pretty cool, right?
How often do you get to make something from that?
Oh, quite often. Quite a lot. And it's also got some of my siblings' favorites, or what all my siblings, what they cook, the favorite thing that they cook, and it's got that. So it's got some cool things in it.
How often do you think about death in general?
It crosses my mind quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right now I'm watching The Pit. And every day I walk, I go, this is a good day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a smorgasbord of what can go wrong.
Nothing makes you more grateful for life than the fact that you don't need to be intubated.
Or,
they're
or
intubating
doctors or nurses,
patient,
to everybody. You're just coming in, let's intubate. I'm like, but I saw a knee.
We got a menu.
But I do think about it. I actually think the practice of remembering you're dying, that Buddhist practice, is awesome. It sounds macabre, but for me, I do believe your ability to accept your own death is commensurate with your ability to live life to its fullest. If I equate it to going on vacation, I don't want to be the kind of person that 2/3 through the vacation is sad that it's going to end. Like, I want to enjoy it right to the last minute.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, what's the alternative? Immortality? Boring. Come on. We've seen how that plays out on screen for you. It seems tough.
Totally.
Seems tough.
Right, it's lonely. I think my favorite quote that I've heard recently that I go with is, we're just in this little pause between two mysteries. Yeah. So that's life.
At least there's food in the pause.
Today's going to be awesome.
You ready to eat?
Are you ready?
Oh, I am ready. I'm starving. You, for the first course of your final meal on Earth, we've got the Australian pub grub, we got the chicken schnitty, we got the beans on toast, we have the meat pie, and then the Rosie's lime marmalade. This is the Australia course.
Rose's lime.
Rose's lime.
I don't know. I think it's English. That I haven't had in many years.
I mean, we'll start where you want to, but I can already smell the Vegemite coming off of that toast.
Yes, you got the Vegemite on the baked beans. It's the unsexiest thing you'll ever hear. It's yeast extract. But it was somehow told to us, should I just do that?
Yeah, please.
That it was healthy. I think there's a big source of iron. That's what it says on the jar. But it's very salty. You don't want to have too much. This looks good. Oh yeah, just you're going in. I like that. Okay. Oh. Excellent. Excellent. My mum tells a story. One of my really good mates is a guy called Clint Newcomb. So you probably don't know his dad, John Newcomb, famous tennis player. So Australia had this run, Rod Laver, Tony Rhodes, John Newcomb, all these, like we dominated.
Rod the Rocket?
Yes.
Rocket Laver? Yeah.
So we dominated. And Clint Newcomb was like a legend. He had this moustache. He was growing up. And so I went to school with my best mate, Gus Wallen, was his next door neighbor, Clint. So apparently I have no memory of this. I went over to John Newcomb's place to have a play date with Clint. I'm probably 5 or 6. And I was dropped back in a limousine, according to my mum. And I came in and she was like, oh no, now he's seen another whole side of life. And what's he going to hear? I said, Mom, I've had the best meal in my entire life. And she was like, what? He goes, baked beans on toast. And my mum used to cook like really great food. Yeah. Big food. And she goes, awesome. And it really was, and still is probably one of my favorite things.
This is, I have a question about Australian culture. How common is it to perform what is known as a shoey? Because I have shoeyed on camera before.
Have you?
It was not premeditated. It was it was a shoey in the moment. And many Australians reached out and said, this is not something we do and we're ashamed of this, but I want to know when the last time you did a shoey was.
I would have been 20. I'm saying 20.
Is that about the cutoff age when shoey stopped?
The dumb years.
Yeah, sure.
Somewhere in the dumb years where you're being egged on. Yeah. And it seems like a good idea. Not far beyond let's headbutt the locker and see if we can put a dent in it. That was the beginning of the dumb years.
Sure.
Shoey's somewhere near the end of the dumb years.
Can you describe to your camera what exactly a shoey is for the people that don't know?
Yeah, when you scull beer from a shoe. So, yeah. Is that an Australian thing?
I think it's only an Australian thing.
Wow.
There's something about...
I'm so proud. I'm so proud.
Dig into the lime marmalade. This is something that I never heard of.
Rose's lime marmalade. White toast, because that was just what I loved growing up. Now, I make some sourdough. If I was choosing, I'd probably now go sourdough, but I'd come home from school. I don't know how many pieces of toast I would make, but it's probably a solid 10.
Yeah. Butter,
Rose's lime marmalade. And there, okay. Oh. That's perfection.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. My brother gave me a jar for Christmas 2 years ago, and I cried. I think I cried. I thought, I hadn't seen it for 30 years. Yeah. You can't find it anywhere. Oh, this is so good. This is fancy toast too, and it's awesome.
The nice brioche. I want to talk about your new movie, The Death of Robin Hood. I found it such a beautiful reflection on not only life and death, but the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are. Because a lot of it has to do with breaking down the myth versus the man versus the downstream effects that he's had on people. I was wondering if doing that movie made you think about your life in any fresh perspective.
Absolutely.
In what way?
Well, first of all, my understanding of memory is that it shifts. What happens, it's not like there is a video in there.
Yeah.
Where you see something. So if you ask me about this morning, I'm seeing it, but that video will change depending on what I'm telling the story for, who I'm telling it to, what I want from telling the story. So naturally things morph. You know how people go, wow, that's really changed. Why? But they may really believe that. Yeah. It may really change. And so I think we have a natural predilection to be the hero of our story. So even if we're telling something that may be not great about us, we want people to maybe sympathize with the not great.
Of course. Yeah.
We want people to understand. We want people, so we may cherry pick. So this whole idea of story, how we perceive ourselves, what is our identity, what is our ability to really be honest or to see things as they are, I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, when you're Robin Hood and you've become a myth, a legend in some ways, it's like the volume is just ratcheted up to another level. And I think what Mike Sarnowski, the writer-director, did with this was actually talk about the power of story and how, I don't know if did you read Yuval Harari's book, Sapiens?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Fascinating.
I didn't read it. I listened to the audiobook, but
Same thing.
Yeah.
But this idea that Homo sapiens, as opposed to Neanderthals, what our ability to socialize and tell stories meant we
Belief in a collective fiction, I think is the term, yeah.
Right. So we could then have a country as opposed to just a group of, I think prior to that it was 150 people was the maximum that could be cohesive. But if you have a story that combines us.
Yeah.
So this idea of stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, has survived hundreds of years. It's a myth that we love. How much of it was true?
Yeah.
How much of it did Robin Hood, use in order to get people to follow him, to go into some dark places? What about the grandkids of someone that he might have killed, who now just are looking for retribution and are doing it from an honorable place? And what is it? So it gets so complex. Ultimately, the feeling of the movie was this feeling of healing and humanness, that we all do good things, not great things. We try to end our life at the end with some sense of healing or peace about it all.
Yeah.
And that's where we find Robin Hood.
What I love is the journey, it doesn't wrap up that neatly. It's not the most linear of, even in the way that, you in the film don't even really believe the myth about yourself. It's not as if Robin Hood is peddling this. And then, the only contrition that we get at the end of the film, I'll say, without giving away the goat, it's quite subtle and quite beautiful.
Yeah.
To me, it almost took, I would call it maybe a bleak outlook on life, that life in the state of nature is by definition, I think John Locke used the term nasty, brutish, and short. There's a sense of like relentlessness to the movie that I loved, because to me, it never let my mind wander. It kept me sort of fixated thinking about life and death in a way.
Yeah, no, there's a bleakness to it. But I think there is a beauty to it.
Absolutely,
The feeling I have when I read it was that this feels beautiful, because it's definitely exploring the shadow side of life, of human nature, the violence, the selfishness, the some of the darker aspects. But again, I don't want to give it away either. With this young girl, little Margaret, that's there, somehow brings out a side of him that was gone.
Yeah.
And it's somehow healing. And then the story that comes out, it always catches me as something very beautiful, because what's beautiful is he's like, I'm telling a story that's going to help you.
Yeah.
And what he realized at the beginning of the movie is all the stories have been for him.
Yeah.
And what's going to help me for whatever I want. But there he does something selfless. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Please dig in. The chicken shenanigans is getting cold. And then we also have the Aussie meat pie here, not with ketchup, but with tomato sauce.
Tomato sauce, very good, mate.
Sauce. It's not tomato sauce. It's
tomato sauce.
It's entirely different in the Australian accent. Do we gravy it?
Yeah, I gravy on the side, because a good schnitty can just go solo. So I would go easy on that. Okay, so Old Mate's Pub. My mate Andy Lee started in radio, but he's got a TV, but he's got everything. But him and his partner Hamish are massive in Australia. And
Hamish and Andy, the radio.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I know them. Yeah, literally just from being massive radio hosts in Australia, I know them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, wild.
So Andy was like, I'm going to do a pub. And we're like, okay. And we've got some co-owners. You may know Paddy Mills or Ash Barty, who won Wimbledon, or there's surfers, there's me, there's Pat Cummins, a cricketer, you name it, and Hamish and Andy. And this place is the best. And so he went to all the owners and said, "What's your favourite pub meal?"
No way.
Yeah. And so I said lasagna, which is on. Then meat pie, chicken snitty was someone else's. So all the menu is all the favorites of people, and it's
of the Australian Avengers. This is fully. You've gotten everybody from Australia,
fully. And it is honestly, it's so much fun there, and the place just goes off, and so much thought has gone into it, and it's got its own. Okay, what do you think?
It's the lemon combined with the gravy, because the lemon lightens and brightens everything up.
Yeah.
And who doesn't love a flattened fried piece of chicken?
Right.
But it's the gravy, earthiness of the mushrooms, fattiness of the gravy, combined with that lemon. I feel like America takes a lot of crap for what we've done to beautiful cultural cuisines, and I'd like Australia to answer for it more, because what you've done to the term Parmigiana means relating to the region of Parma in Italy, but what is a Parmigiana for you?
Chicken parm. Just a parm.
Just a parm?
Yeah. Well, that's got tomato and cheese on top of breaded chicken.
Where does the ham come into play?
Oh yeah,
Because you put ham on it
yeah,
too.
we put ham.
No, that's different.
That's true. It's
Some
just
places
another level.
you put pineapple on it.
Well, really, on the parm? I mean, we put pineapple on our burgers, and we put beetroot,
yeah,
and egg.
I'm going to need Australia to answer for more of their, what I think are delicious food crimes.
I used to grow up thinking fish and chips was Australian, so, I could be way off base here, but I have a feeling that the Asian fusion cooking actually emanated from Australia, is what I was told, because of our proximity to Asia, and some of the chefs were like, oh, hang on, let's start mixing that.
I was digging into the meat pies.
We're not going to use a knife and fork for the meat pie, I just want to be super clear.
I wouldn't have even guessed how to eat this.
That's just coming out like that.
Okay, hold on. I'm behind the paste right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
This smells so good. It's the hardest to get a good meat pie outside
How
Australia.
does this weigh so much?
Right.
It's so dense in a way that I didn't. This
has actually got meat in it. I think if you buy it at the football ground, we'll see. But oh, this is so good. I don't know how much butter is in that pastry. This is so good.
The butter is barely being held together by flour. It's like a non-Newtonian solid.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at all that meat in there. This is so good. Like a meat pie, which is obviously an English ripoff, but you can't go to England and get a good meat pie. So we've somehow changed it into something for us. I guess this is our hot dog.
Yeah. Well, you also have a sausage roll. Is the sausage roll underneath the meat pie umbrella?
Meat pie. Growing up, I was a meat pie and a sausage roll for lunch. So that was if I went to the tuck shop. We call it a tuck shop at school. You were a meat pie, sausage roll, chocolate thick shape with malt.
If I use the term tucker truck arms, does that mean anything?
Totally. We just call them tuck shop arms.
Just tuck shop arms?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a tuck shop arms.
Yeah. But a sausage roll is probably a little easier to eat.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the burrito or the meat pie, right?
While you're watching footy, a game I have never even come close to understanding, but I do love watching it.
Which one? The Aussie Rolls?
AFL, yeah. Is it AFL, Aussie Rolls? Yeah.
We call it Aussie Rolls AFL. And it's the dominant sport now in Australia in the winter sport. It's the only real national sport. And I grew up in Sydney where there was not much growing up, but now it's massive. And I love it. I mean, to watch live, it's an incredible sport. And their skills, I can't work out how to. I played it once. And first of all, you can get taken out from any angle if you're within 5 meters from the ball. And I didn't know that.
Oh.
So I got taken out and I got up and I'm into a fight. And my own team was like, no, dude, that was legal. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Hugh, for the second course of your final meal on Earth, just some light dessert and the meat pie. We have a classic lasagna bolognese, and then we have entered sort of the American fast food echelon with the McDonald's fries, or Macca's if it makes you more comfortable. We have the burger from the Polo Bar, which, if I can address the burger from the Polo Bar, this is not the exact Polo Bar burger, because despite name dropping you, which we normally wouldn't do, but this is an emergency, they refuse to give any burgers to go. And we got profusely apologized to. They said it is fully policy, they refuse. So we have made our own rendition of the Polo Bar burger.
That's cool. I'm going to get my mitts around this one.
Oh my God. Oh, that is a tremendously medium rare
You know what
burger.
we say when you have a burger? Wrap your laughing gear around that one. Like when it's a massive, wrap your laughing gear around that.
That's incredible.
Wrap your laughing gear
I
around
love
that.
that Australians speak in riddles.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a bridge troll, you know?
And I've made the mistake of saying that a few times. Like, what? But if you say that, an Aussie would be super impressed. Oh, yeah.
Holy smokes.
Come on.
Do we get close?
Absolutely. Sorry, Ralph. That's close.
This is really kind of one of the better burgers I've ever. This is spectacular.
It's really good.
Please, the fries.
Growing up, first thing I did when I got my driver's license, drive-through, Macca's. That was, so when I was 17, Macca's drive-through, that was just it. And the fries, just can't go wrong.
So even this is going back to Australia.
Totally, it takes me back. Yeah.
I want to talk more about this idea of mythologizing, because I find it really fascinating, especially in the way that we view ourselves. But the way that you always talked about your father is in this very mythologizing way, which isn't to say that it's more or less truthful, but at least shifts the narrative. Do you think that as we tell stories about people, they get more true or less true?
Less.
Yeah. I'm almost more fascinated in the nugget of truth that comes from the myth than the exaggerations.
So my father's passed, so I haven't obviously thought this through, but in real time I'm thinking about it. What do I want to, how do I want to feel about it? And then there's also a public element, right? I know I'm speaking publicly about, so I'm not going to dish about the stuff, I don't want, I would keep that private.
Yeah.
And I have become more private about it. I think when I first began, I was like, an open book and talk about things. And then I realized it's actually not just like it's my father, but I've got 5 siblings. That's there, so it's not just my story,
Yeah.
So one thing I did do, and it was someone suggested I did this. I haven't told anyone this. I rang my father's best friend.
Oh, wow. And
I just said, can I ask you anything about my dad? And he went, yeah, may not answer you, but ask me anything. And I had a list of questions and I had a really long talk and it was fascinating.
How long ago was that?
About 2 years ago.
That's a really spectacular idea.
Yeah, someone gave me that idea. It was almost like, and maybe I heard more than even my father if he was able to just sort of like,
sure.
But maybe it's hard, as a parent,
I'm fascinated with the fact that we only get to meet one version of our parents, which is the parent version of that, you know? And so my dad passed when I was 19 and I never rang his childhood best friend. I really should have. Now I still have the opportunity to. In fact, that's kind of really interesting.
Yeah.
But I did.
How old was he when he passed?
He was 64. He had a heart condition, and so it was kind of tough. But
Well, I'm really sorry. That's a really hard time to lose your dad.
I remember hearing one of his coworkers came in and like called him by a nickname that I'd never heard before. And I was like, to this coworker, my dad was just that nickname to me. He was dad, and we saw entirely different versions of himself. Do you view yourself as different versions throughout your career? One thing that I of course grew up with you as Wolverine. I was at the peak X-Men age when the first X-Men came out. And so I always assumed that was at least a little bit of the core of the real Hugh Jackman, had maybe that disposition. And I've since found out that you are quite opposite type to that. But do you view yourself in different eras as sort of a different Hugh?
Yeah, but remember, the Hugh you're meeting now is a version of me that I want you to see, and I want, right? Whether it's conscious or unconscious. And yeah, I don't go around like Wolverine telling people to F off and, I'm going to slice you in half and being surly and grumpy.
Be fun. But I
actually have a lot of that rage.
Do you, though?
Oh, yeah. And it comes out very, very rarely. But it may be rarely because I played Wolverine. That's the beauty of it.
You get to sort of excise that out of you.
Even Ryan's always like, Ryan Reynolds, when we did it, he goes, I don't know if they remember the scene in the van, and we called cut, and he goes, dude, there was no part of me that didn't think you were going to punch me in the face.
No way.
You've got serious repressed rage, dude. Remember? And I said, I don't know if it's suppressed because I get to do this, but it's easy for me to access.
Sure.
So it's there, man. And when I used to play rugby, I was like, nice guy. I was like, and then when I'd play, I was like a little animal.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. There's all these parts of us. And then in life, we create a persona, whatever we think is going to be our best way to get through the world, So on the surface, I'm very different, I think, from Wolverine, but there's a lot of stuff there. But going back to your original question, which is, I think, fascinating, playing the same character over 25 years, I can absolutely see the changes in me over those 25 years.
Yeah.
Because it feels completely different. There's parts of the character that I'm making sense. There's things that I used to use as motivation that just don't affect me anymore. I'm doing a play right now, a series of plays, and we did a play I did last year, just 1 year ago. The same play this year. And it feels completely different to me.
Yeah.
And I feel different on stage. The part feels different. The parts of the play that are speaking to me are like completely different.
Yeah.
And that's when you know we are changing all the time.
Yeah, of course.
And it's a rare thing. Very few people get to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, lasagna.
Lasagna bolognese, a deceptively very Australian dish.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Bolognese means somebody from Bologna, which is in Italy.
Yes.
However, bolognese, I think it's actually more common in Australia than because in Bologna they call it. It's like they don't call it French fries in France. They just call them frites. They're fries.
Right.
In Bologna they call it ragu. So the term bolognese is like very Australian.
Well, we had it a lot.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of my faves.
You can trace it back to one Australian women's magazine published a recipe, I think in the...
Women's Weekly?
It was Women's Weekly, yeah. Which is monthly, I've been told.
That's right.
That Women's Weekly is monthly.
Yes.
Australia, it all makes sense.
Shoeys. It all makes sense.
It's all a shoey.
I mean, if you throw in chocolate and beer, that's all the food groups you need. If you think about it, right? We can throw it in.
We can get a beer for you.
Yes. Oh, guys, you have excelled. This is incredible.
I'm sorry for setting back any sort of physical training you have by about 4 months.
This is so good.
And I understand, I mean, you are literally going to a stage production of yours tonight. Mm-hmm. You're notably very, very prolific. I found that a lot of people who work as much as you do tend to use that as a substitution for maybe reflecting on their lives if they just keep going. Do you think that at all is behind your work ethic, or is this merely loving the process?
Partly. I think I've identified that. It's really tricky because I love what I do and I can't believe I get to do it. And I've also managed to somehow have a career where I have all these different roads to go down, which I love.
Yeah.
Keeping the cooking analogies, how many pots can you have going?
Sure.
But yeah, I think sometimes it's easier to have 6 pots rather than not cook at all or have to do the washing up or, you know.
Yeah.
Or I think there's definitely been an element of that. And I certainly can see that in my father, his work ethic, and it's something I'm really looking at now.
Yeah. Do you think any of that was trying to prove something either to yourself or to your father?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this idea of seeking outside validation is certainly there. I also had a real, I hated being bored as a kid. Who doesn't? People say, what makes you bored? I say, I haven't been bored. I have not been bored since I left high school.
Yeah. Hugh, for the third course of your final meal on Earth, we have the Christmas pud with brandy butter, something we've definitely heard of before you. You got some ice cream and then some tiramisu.
Yes.
A flat white and, of course, some...
Tim Tams.
Tim Tams.
Yeah.
Where are we starting?
I think we're going to go here first. Do you want to cut that up?
Absolutely.
This is all English tradition, but you boil it, I think.
Yeah.
3 or 4 months before, and then you put coins in, and so kids would go around and... money. It was like a fun little thing for Christmas. We used to put aluminum foil around it. So you would come in, and so the kids would go around to all the adults and say, can I have your coins? And of course they would give it, and that's where we get money. But that was for the brandy butter, my dad used to do it. Now, you got to imagine, it's Christmas Day in Australia, it's 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And humid, and you got the party hat, like the Christmas hats from the crackers, and it's just the sweat goes up and then they disintegrate. My main images of my father, so red-faced, maybe a few wines and beers in there, but just cooking hot ham, turkey, the Christmas pudding, flambe, the whole thing.
It was incredible how much of the British cooking tradition, which is a very different climate, made its way to Australia.
Finally, I think Australia's ditched that. It's shrimps, prawns as we're going. Oh, that's so good.
Tiramisu.
It's just my favorite. Ever since I went to Italy when I was 18 to Bologna.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have friends there and in Milan, and that's when I first had coffee, and I was like, oh, that's coffee, because my dad just had instant coffee.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no. So I used to drink tea. And in Australia, it was a lot of tea, but now Australia really leads the way with coffee, I think.
I want to ask about a moment that you had from your childhood at Knox Grammar School at their outdoor camp when you're on a rock wall. Yeah. How much did that feeling stay with you, and does any of that feeling still drive you?
100%. I can remember that feeling so clearly. I was, we had to go rock climbing, I don't know, 40, 50 feet, nothing major. But I was terrified of heights. And I was the first one to go up, and I froze, and I could hear them making fun of me. And I did the complete rookie error. Yeah, we'll wait till you try it. I'm crying. I'm 12, almost 13.
Yeah.
Too old to cry in Australia back then. No good. I come down, and of course, every one of them just went, like, I thought they're all going to fail. And I was like,
Sure.
And I said, let me go back up to the thing. He goes, no, we're out of time. We've got to walk up. And we're going to bring the rope. So I didn't get to do it. And I was made fun of a lot.
Yeah.
For years. I would hear why do you guys try it? So it would become a refrain in every class. Like, okay, we've got to do the homework. Well, why do you guys get to do the homework? Like, I would hear that for years.
Oh, my God.
And it sort of drove me. I went down to, there was a diving board at my school, and at lunch I would go down there and jump off it over and over again to get over my fear, because I didn't want that embarrassment. So I guess, yeah.
And now in your career, you've hosted the Oscars in front of billions of people. Right. You're on stage every night. You're on
if
the
I'm
world's biggest
scared,
stage.
I run towards it. I really do.
And is that from the regret of not just...
It's part of that. It's part of having older brothers doing things that are scary to you, but you don't want to get left behind.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's all healthy, but I think parts of it, as an artist, I think fear is usually a really good sign.
Interesting.
Take one of those. Don't eat it yet.
I'm not. I know what's coming.
Do you?
And
the Tim Tam explosion?
You call it the explosion?
What do you call it?
That was a Tim Tam slam.
A slam. That's too.
Must be a regional thing. I only speak Melbourne dialect.
We're going to take up each edge. There we go. Grab your flat wide, baby. And you're going to suck it up. And the key is, as soon as it hits your mouth, you've got to get it into your whole mouth, otherwise it's going in.
Cheers. What a time to be alive.
Josh. Yeah. I don't know if I did it right. Someone give me the smelliest shoe. Let's do a shoey.
Ew, I got it.
Yeah.
Come on. I thought he came here to party. We ask everyone on the show, and talking about fear, running towards the thing you're scared of. What do you think happens when you die?
Of course, I don't know. But my feeling is that whatever consciousness is, whatever that energy is that actually connects all of us, somehow you go back into that. And my feeling is that all of this struggle of being human just goes away. And I think I don't think I'm going to be in this body or this form, but I think I'll have an experience of that connectedness. That's my hope.
I think the mystic Ram Dass said death would be like taking off an uncomfortable shoe and seeing as, ow, I already took off my uncomfortable shoe. I hope it's like that.
I hope it's like that too.
Yeah.
And is that what you feel it's going to be?
I think I'm a lot more scared of it than taking off a shoe, but I hope it is. And I hope I can.
Ram Dass, who I've read a little bit, thought he was ready for death until he had that near-death experience and went, oh no. So I don't think any of us really know till we're there, right?
Yeah. Until then, the one Tim Tam slam in the sky is always waiting for us. You ready to get in the lightning round, Hugh?
I'm ready.
Hugh, who's the one person dead or alive you'd want to share your actual last meal with?
Socrates.
What song do you want to be played at your funeral?
21st, what is that? September, Earth, Wind and Fire. Do you remember?
If you turn into a cloud when you die, would you rather be a
Turn into
a cloud when you die?
cloud, yeah.
Would you rather be a cirrus, nimbus, or cumulonimbus?
Oh, cumulonimbus, because I don't know what that is.
Not me neither.
Yeah, okay. But definitely that, because it sounds more complex.
What's your biggest fear?
Fear itself.
What's your greatest regret in life?
Not having deeper conversations with my dad.
Finally, Hugh, are you happy?
Very.
You seem incredibly happy. It could be the milkshake. It could be a wonderful disposition and a fantastic career and family.
Thanks.
Hugh, finally, if you want to look into that camera and deliver your last words.
Thank you to the people who cooked it. More importantly, as I'm not going to be here, thank you to the people who are cleaning up. They're the real heroes.
It's me, actually. We couldn't hire a PA. Hugh, dude, thank you so much, man. This has been so wonderful.
Thanks.
Everyone, make sure you check out The Death of Robin Hood, out in theaters nationwide, June 19th. Got anything else to tell him?
No, hey, enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. And if you can go, great. But thanks. This was really cool.
Dude, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Do a Shoey.
Nice.
That's the official plug. This has been brought to you by Shoey's.
Follow at Mythical Kitchen for more last meals moments and be the first to know who our next guest is going to be.